All right. Just so that things don't go astray again, I'm going to break down anthropologically, philosophically, and anthropologically the mechanisms unto which Russia, Europe, and variables unto which to distort and degrade any further attempts from any European nation to infiltrate the Communist Party and Soviet uh, construct of Russia is induced and indulged in this song, Down with the Sickness, to relevate on certain unintended, what came off as threats, hence why I put the Baker Act here, implementively to help one understand how, when a force can't defend itself, or very much does so, certain sex comes into violence, validating a interbreeded bastard child onto which is supposed to take on an identity complex similar to empathies with that into which the war was once created to reduce casualties of a cynicism of defeat. Uh, Not always I'm no smart guy. I just sound smart because I get sort of convoluted rationally. But um, relevantly, at the end of this, you'll anthropologically see why it's rather clear how and why, similar to the end of the Civil War, certain literal firewalls had to be created between Russia and Europe. Um, anyways, uh, those Eastern European nations, which have alphabets that look like Russian letters, utilize a social media platform called the VK to integrate them in a liberal experiment for Europe and Russia's past sort of foot in the door to their continent's geographic disposition, left around by certain conquests dating back to, say, I think 1200s, exist, and here and why sickness is epidemically vindicated by a sort of raping and pillaging which took place after the Germans lost to the Russians, and the Russians were like, "Don't ever do that again." We, as American soldiers, we don't think like that. We didn't want to cheat on our wives. We don't, we didn't want to punish Germany like that. We prosecute. Russia, on the other hand, had a different perspective on how to make sure this didn't ever happen again. At first, took place in a rather large amount of Russian uh, men impregnating German uh, civilians and women who really can't be held to blame for this. I mean, they may have been economically felt entrenched in certain debt variables, isolated by heretical uh, sort of Hebrew migrations into Europe after the Muslims and them couldn't really work it out because we kept running crusades and made it difficult for those two to facilitate peace treaties. Objectively, a lot of this can be undone at any given point in any individual reference of counterculture finagles, if you will. Um, so, what do? You know, Russia, part Asian, part European, one point very European. Let's not talk about that. Sorry, Europe. Sorry. comedy's taken a whole new edge for people who don't really heretically or culturally identify with that portion of the world anymore. Once we kind of got over here, we're like, oh, felt like reborn Christians. Like anything that happened over there, not a part of my heritage anymore. Beneficial. Maybe learn something from that today. Anyways, let's not get into that. To disenfranchise a guerrilla tactic warmonger, to reimpose and question the authority of the Soviets ever again. A firewall of smaller countries was built to morally de-invalidate or devalidate any conquest once again, to create an unethical interest like Germany first had to do through Belgium, or whatever small country it was to get to France. Ultimately, prosecuting them quick and immediately before philosophically rationalizing the indoctrined circumstance between them and France, I believe. Might be flipping my lefts and rights there. I forget though. I don't have a European map in front of me at the moment. So, in relevance of this circumstance, the smaller European Russian alphabet-oriented countries to sort of decompose communism from a liberal agenda, which again, in European interests, is actually to indoctrinate a liberty of free will to self-discern corporate entities to not monopolize like a communist Vladimir, does, to create $2 billion in secret wealth. Gosh, I'm really starting to realize why my breakdowns of reality really piss people off the more I think about it. I'm really just trying to rationalize things for people who don't get it. I'm not trying to piss you off, Vladimir, or expose you. I mean, we already figured out the laundering scheme, like, I'm pretty sure it was like 5 years ago, so it's not me doing it. Don't blame it on me if you're listening. My intelligence agency is all on your dirty money and has been busted all the circumferencing variables into which you probably lost a good chunk of that $2 billion unreferenced by the people assessing it at the time I was. Anyway, God, I just dig myself deeper trying to get myself out of it. Anyways, gotta stop doing that. So back to the firewall. Based on how to disenfranchise the Germans after the initial inquisition of raping all the German women took place, creating bastard Deutsch Soviets in DNA rhetoric. To identify hopefully in a manner that didn't engage any further revolution to take place off the aggression of the loss, essentially. Even though at this point, most of the European countries don't particularly like communism. Neither do communists. That's why they're not really communists anymore. They just sort of still look like communists to us based on variables of strong leadership and interests which we overlook in trying to create a perspectual rivalry which it doesn't exist anywhere near the time all this creative material syntax was first derived and rationalized more variably due to. Anyways, Why do I keep doing that to myself? Damn it. So, to end any more European, Asian, Soviet clashes of authoritarian versus liberal democracy agendas, and let people be to evolve and slowly progress on their own. All those Eastern European countries sort of created a firewall between, at the time, the Soviets and Europe, because I guess Europe sort of didn't like the idea that the communists were a part of their geography, I guess, uh, from a continental unity standpoint, especially in relation to the Europeans' ambition to create the Union. Anyways, so, you rape the German women, you make the bastard Soviet Dutch children, get them to identify rationally and positionally, economically and strategically, politically, against the western half of Germany, which we managed, to infuse a ideologically rational forward trajectory for the modern state of how to manage the northern world's position to conquer itself, which naturally manifested itself throughout Asia and the Middle East, various centuries as well, before things leading up to and around the World War. Anyways, let's not get into that right now. I really need an education in how not to shoot myself in the foot and dig holes while I do it. Anyways, that's not the point. Where was I going with this? So, the rational construct here, creating that those small countries, which actually are being more so taught English, not Russian, because they, we're trying to get everyone ultimately over to America for the big melting pot project. So sustainably, those cultures can retain their experiments and petri dishes properly to manifest the geographical interests they were founded upon. Where am I going here? Oh yeah, so intelligent design for long-term defense mechanisms, for anti-hacking theories from a good geographic anthropologic global community development standard. We should be thinking like that. We theoretically should be thinking like that and rationalizing here and now also why the implication to DJ this song is not an identity of mine through and thus Germany. In fact, my German heritage is ancestrally heretic based upon a move before the World War took place and an involvement in the World War by my grandfather, second one on my mother's side, who was German, and started indoctrinating himself as an American and Christian Scientist, far before the Inquisition of the circumstance into which to get down with one's sickness, elaborates on how and why good geographic planning and anthropologic switching and scientific indoctrinations of finding the best of both worlds is remnant in our modern interests, in my opinion. Now, this brings us to ultimately a point that this is not me being mean and saying I want to rape anybody. This is me saying you guys are going to get yourself raped if you keep up with this war on terror covidly by undercover agents of molestation, inquisitively angry and trying to invoke homosexuals amongst your community through sexual abuse, like the God hates fags people are persisting and prevailing and trying to bring up, which unfortunately has a big trauma to a documentary I once did over Matthew Shepard, and to counter protest feeling humiliated by theological projection of why the Christian church actually does not hate homosexuals. Just saying it's probably not the best idea if you want to keep procreating, start a family, and be happy. Even though they understand certain developments get done over a period of time into which one can't trust the opposite sex if taken advantage of at a young age by a pedophile. Anyways, let's not hurt anyone's feelings here. Back into how this gets to a point of good, intelligent design for geographic firewalls. Do not encourage geographic guerrilla warfare and/or intellectual hacks of inquisitions of political discernment and relevating on how and why. In my opinion, we need to take a very close look at the implications of our western coast and its interjection with Asian conflict as to here now and why. We might have exacerbated a circumstance to take place through the manifestation of essentially software, which is like growing money on trees. How I make a joke about how easy it is to make money off of the medicines of THC, but ultimately a product unto which just needs to be invented and printed for very cheap costs after patenting like a drug in chemical molecular interest, which really shouldn't be done. You should be going Asian with healing properties, old school style. Still, I think being proven by most cases the best way to go. Anyways, how can we create a Californian firewall in their position to try to create independence because they're really frustrated with how counter liberal they are to the overall federal agenda, as was once the South. From a business standpoint, not let's nationalize states' rights over a reverse inquisition against black slaves, which we told you guys to stop doing in the first place, and now commanded you guys to just stop, cut it out, can't do this anymore. It humiliates our revolution from England to disenslave ourselves and franchise our business practices to wield rational profits based on what our people are earning, working hard for. To sort of prevail in not losing a dominant position of our ingenious programming, product creation, which now is being had out of many locations, but still prevails like the AI sector in Canada, still homogeneous to the Northern California region. To orient ourselves with the Asian persuasion, relevantly, intelligently, and literally in geographic genius, especially considering we want to keep Japan as an ally. To not create prejudice with the high immigration there. Thinking deeper and deeper as to where and how the Japanese Communist parties, theoretically, without totally going full Hollywood up north, could implement certain procedures and products, programming principally, to retain home-based constructions into which our youngest, brightest geniuses are capable. Hence why Anonymous exists there, and sort of founded itself there because there's a lot of people who are geniuses, know how to program, that just didn't work out in the office space into which they need to program, yet have exponential creativity and ability, similar to the surfers and skateboarders at a young age developing down in Southern California. They just do it for fun. It just comes natural to them. It's like, programming to them, being great programmers is just like learning to walk practically to that region, as it is in many places all over the world now, similar to Indonesia. Hence why I was able to export a contract to them for like $500 to get that operational system, as simple as DOS, to put together a situation into which I didn't have to pay anybody to mass produce video menus. Ultimately, could be rationalized so that the whole world doesn't pick up on what I picked up on and just start going to Indonesia for all their programming necessities, needs, as most of your corporations for customer service have done in India. But I actually don't have too much conceptual construct after that because I don't study business practice. I don't know your policies. Like a European, I say, hey, my liberal cause is to say I make a bunch of rules that stop people from making sense, and people are just trying to self-motivate creative factions of product creations to make a profit, start something new, and develop and evolve ingenious concepts to benefit people in all sorts of ways. But if I were to start a discussion or a think tank as to how to ruminate, how to create a firewall, literally in geographical perspective, because ultimately the taxes of the benefits of the corporate entities which implore the overall marketing structure of these products to go worldwide on a global competitive perspective. What if we start with similar to Chinatown, Komitowns? Sorry, Japan. I don't mean to, I'm actually trying to work with you here. Japtown. No. Oh, gosh, that's not a good idea. I don't get offended by many things, so I see the funniness and slander at which what was one time. Not good. Make mistakes though. I had a Jewish best friend. He called a girl a Jap. I was like, oh, that's funny. I'll call my girlfriend Jap too. She's Jewish. Well, she told her mother, and apparently they thought I was anti-Semitic after that. I thought I was just in. I thought I had a Jew card or something. I don't know. Sorry, I'm a dumbass sometimes. Anyways, oh God, at moments really am like Will Ferrell from the other guys. Like, oh, just trying to be one of the guys letting off a ceiling shot. There goes my gun. Anyways, what's going on here? Oh yeah, so geographic methods to compose synergy with us and our ally from a business standpoint, corporatively, the second largest economy in the world and technologically strongest developer on the planet where now all these programs are going AI and robot based, and Japan is kicking our ass and Blueberry's ass. The retarded Hollywood script robot from Canada. It's cute though, it's just silly. It's like me trying to make a joke like South Park out of a bunch of silly Hollywood entertainments in comparison to Sophie. And the big British guy. There's a British IA robot made by the Sophie creators, competitively being marketed as elevating their company's position in the world. Actually, I forget if that is a Japanese one. Anyway, the Japanese are developing exoskeletons for elderly people, which, instead of a wheelchair, implicate the nature of how to bring somebody without mobility into a robot exoskeleton to walk. And just like those legs that look like C's might actually improve debilitated circumstances. Obviously, I mean, get into an exoskeleton, which is just to be a more advanced wheelchair, all of a sudden, you know, if you got to kick some guy in the balls, you're going to win the fight every time. If an exoskeleton, air-powered footjack, is defending you. In fact, I might buy one of those exoskeletons, functional legs or not, just so I can kick somebody in the ass harder than he can kick me, because, I mean, it's better than a knife. I won't get in any trouble for it. Anyways, let's not go there. That's silly talk, but it's actually real talk. That'd be a really badass way to kind of intimidate people. It's like walk up and oh, so you want to step to me, huh? Then like RoboCop, just like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, it's a robot. I can't shit him, and if he punches me, it will have the air propensity of 2,000 pounds, something the strongest man in the world can't possibly even facilitate. That's like 4 times stronger a punch than the Russian guy from Rocky. Oh my god, oh my god. Sorry, I'm being an idiot now. But an exoskeleton could be a good legal defense mechanism. Anyways, the Japanese are kicking our ass with exoskeletons, robot production, and AI systems. So, if geographically we give sort of a fusion corporate entity to share in global production of programming and or the production of AI robot sophistication to the overall globe, maybe that would put us less out of competition with them, give the, you know, I'm not being mean, California, but everyone kind of thinks you're commie. A chance to facilitate a Eastern European firewall of good business practice and political disintegration of you know, how the word Jap got created. Anyways, I hate sounding like an idiot, but I have to explain certain things because I'm no genius. I don't have syntax and variables into which to grasp all the silly laws and principles and variables you've become so unliberal and so conservative in, which I know sounds bizarre to the Republicans and Democrats. You're like, wait, why are you calling us conservative? Because the Democrats are winning. Because that's what it means to the Russians and the Europeans. Anyways, I'm not going there right now. So yeah, infusions with Japan in Northern California to infuse cooperative synergy between program developers of products. I mean, it's going to be it's got to be for everything theoretically, for the infusion of our geographic taxation on product creation. But ultimately, its principal goal is to infuse our technologists to work uh, cooperatively with each other, uh, so that we don't get in trouble for stealing stuff from the Japanese, like we're busting the Chinese for, and we have a closer eye on circumstances under which the Chinese will continue to try to photocopy our technology, and reduce the political misassociation of our frustration with communists to make the Communist Japanese Party feel more accepted in the plight to cooperatively mass produce most efficiently the best AI and variable technology. And if this all sounds ridiculous, then maybe it is. If it sounds like it might be a bizarre mistake in theory, which might actually have made you think something to go somewhere with, then, you know, we've got everyone always talks about bringing it down to Chinatown in a bad way, but when I go to Chinatown, I find a lot of inexpensive fresh fruits, a lot of tasty duck products, rare meat to most tastes. And I like duck. I think duck's very tasty. In fact, they have a sauce, not duck sauce, but a sauce they put on duck dishes, which is still to this day one of the most unique I've ever had. Very tasty. I forget what that duck dish is. Don't tell my uncle, he loves ducks. He specifically tempts 500 of them to migrate to his backyard on a daily basis, where he analyzes their movement, names them. His two favorites are the Wizard and Elvis. One looks at himself in the mirror, one has a unique look based on some bizarre mutation in his color genes or something. I don't know. Anyways, why am I so unfocused in explaining so many different things when I'm just trying to get to a simple point? Maybe think Chinatown for Japanese immigrants in Northern California, and think even more progressively to how to synergize cooperative profiting and development of intellectually technological advancements in robotic and AI solutions, so we're not freaking out about who's got the best shit. I think it would be beneficial. I don't know if I've just ruined it by pissing off Japan with not understanding, like I did with identifying the Christian right. I mean, my sister's part of the Christian right. I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just saying they tend not to think about where and how they're being manipulated in certain variables of conservative agendas, which are liberal in Europe and misinformed to the public to just say, hey guys, we believe in Jesus. And they're like, okay, well, we're voting for you then. It's not a bad thing. The Christian right does a lot of ethical and good thought in terms of free. Why do I always have to explain myself? It's a bad idea. Just like when I explained that I wanted to marry a Japanese or South Korean Oriental woman, and why. God, looking back on that recording, it looks so racist, but I don't care anymore because you all asked me to have a preference. I made a preference up in case you keep trying to force me into a situation where I don't just get to, just in a moment in time fall in love and then never have a preference. Because love is love. You know what I mean? I don't prefer anything. I prefer to just stumble into a circumstance into which me and a woman are so become by each other's sweet, kind consideration for one another in a totally unplanned way. And before we know it, we maturely develop that absolutely unforeseen, unplanned moment in time to one day build a life together. But if you're going to force me into building a life with a specific person and you're going to, put them to work with me at my restaurant somehow, I would prefer uh, a Asian Oriental, all immigrants from Japan. I know there's Canadians, Japan, documentary filmmakers, which enlightened me to your execution of women and children, taking out a house and I gotta stop talking. Really don't know how to shut up. So I really should never bring me to Guantanamo Bay. I will fuck your interrogator's head up by giving him way more than he wanted, really, honestly. But at least I helped you figure out a way how to get the information out without getting yourself in trouble. Plus, waterboarding is kind of cruel. Anyways. So, yeah. Create geographic places unto which are like massive embassies for business synergy between us and technologists from namely Japan. South Korea is beneficial, obviously as well. Developing over here so we can share in the profits and thus then therefore taxation of the global spread of these very easy to produce products, because again, once you have the programming and are cohesively maintaining an upgrade system for these, the exponential profit and thus piece of the pie is extraordinary for obvious reasons, as to which Silicon Valley has thus proven so far as producing the richest people on the planet. And sharing and caring is always a good thing. Anyways, I'm going to end this recording before I get so convoluted I don't even know what I'm talking about.